YouTube video script expanded and optimized. Okay. So if you're anywhere in the United States right now, you need to pay attention, because what's about to happen over the next 2 weeks is honestly wild. We're talking about a complete flip in the weather pattern that's going to bring some of the craziest conditions we've seen all winter. And I'm not just talking about your typical cold front here. We're looking at multiple storm systems, potential record-breaking temperatures, severe weather threats, and snow measurements that are going to be measured in feet, not inches. So, here's what's going down right now. The West Coast is about to get absolutely hammered. We're talking about an atmospheric river that's setting up shop, and when I say this thing is going to deliver, I mean it's going to deliver. 8 feet of snow in the higher elevations over the next 10 days. That's not a typo, that's 8 feet. If you're a skier in California or Colorado, you're probably losing your mind right now. And honestly, you should be, because the resorts have been struggling this season with record low snowfall. Here's where it gets really interesting. As this western storm moves east, it's going to tap into something meteorologists get really excited about: a sharp temperature contrast. You've got frigid air sitting up north, and then you've got warm, moisture-loaded air pushing up from the Gulf of Mexico. When these two meet, and if all the atmospheric ingredients line up just right, we could be looking at a widespread severe weather outbreak across the south-central United States. I'm talking about cities like Abilene, Dallas, Austin, Shreveport, all of them potentially in the crosshairs for damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes. Now, some of you might be thinking, wait, isn't it February? And you'd be right to question that, because severe weather in mid-February isn't exactly common. But it's not impossible either, especially when you get these kind of dramatic temperature setups. And this isn't just a one-and-done situation. This is just the beginning of what's shaping up to be an extremely active weather pattern. Multiple large storm systems are lined up in the Pacific Ocean like planes waiting to land, and they're all headed our way next week. Each one of these storms is going to have access to similar atmospheric conditions, which means we could see repeat scenarios. Heavy snow on the cold side, thunderstorm threats on the warm side, over and over again, too. Let's talk about these temperature trends, because this is what's really going to determine who's dealing with blizzard conditions and who's watching for tornado warnings. Right now, today, we've got this massive bubble of warm air sitting over the Great Plains. Meanwhile, the Northeast just got hit with a winter weather event, and there's cold air lingering on the backside of that system, bringing chilly temps all up and down the East Coast today and tomorrow. But Thursday and Friday, watch what happens. That warm air over the plains is going to keep building, keep intensifying. Then moisture starts coming out of the Pacific, and it's going to suppress some of that warmth, especially near the Rockies. This sets up the perfect scenario for increasing snowfall potential, particularly this weekend and into early next week. Now, here's the part that's going to blow your mind. This heat wave we're seeing across the plains and Midwest, it's not just warm for February, it's potentially historic. We could be talking about temperatures in the low 70s as far north as Minnesota by Tuesday of next week. Let me say that again, 70-degree temperatures in Minnesota in mid-February. That's absolutely bonkers. We're talking about areas that could be 40 to 45 degrees above average. Look, I know some of you are probably thinking, well, that sounds nice. Who doesn't want warm weather in February? But here's the thing. This kind of extreme temperature anomaly is what sets up these dangerous severe weather situations. It's also what's going to make the eventual cold snap, when it comes, feel even more brutal. Speaking of cold air, there's some Arctic air that's going to try to spill back into the United States behind all this warmth. But here's the catch. There's going to be a large low-pressure system developing over California early next week. And as it moves up into the northern plains and Midwest, it's going to pull even more warm air northward. On the backside of that storm, we should see some cold air, but if the storm tracks further north than expected, it's going to weaken that Arctic blast significantly. So, right now, it doesn't look like we're going to get any major Arctic outbreak in the immediate future. My gut feeling is that the last week of February, maybe around that time frame, we'll finally see a decent shot of cold air that brings a better chance of snow further south. And we'll definitely dive deeper into those snow and severe weather possibilities in just a bit. But I gotta point out something about these models we're looking at. The GFS model is showing this warm air pushing a bit further north than the European model is indicating. so there could definitely be some changes to the forecast as we get closer. It's really gonna come down to that big storm system forming over California at the start of next week. Depending on where that thing tracks, it could dump massive snow totals on some of you, or it could bring a rare severe weather threat much further north than we typically see this time of year. And if I showed you this temperature map without a date on it, and you didn't know today was February 11th, you'd probably think this was March, maybe even April in some spots. High temperatures back up into the 50s across North and South Dakota today, and that's going to continue through the weekend. By early next week, we could legitimately be talking about a historic heat wave for this time of year. We're looking at 60s and 70s as far north as Omaha. Minneapolis could be pushing 60 degrees on Monday, and Tuesday might be even warmer. Southeast South Dakota could see 67 degrees. Mid to upper 70s, even low 80s down south. If this forecast verifies, and we're less than a week away, this is going to be absolutely crazy. Now, let's talk about who's going to see significant snow over the next 7 to 10 days and who needs to be prepared for severe weather, because all this moisture that's about to flood into the United States is going to create some dramatic weather scenarios. Over the next 7 days. We're looking at several rounds of snow, rain, and severe weather potential across the country. It all comes back to this massive amount of moisture streaming out of the Pacific Ocean. The most notable severe weather setup is going to be Friday through Sunday across the southern plains and southeast. This isn't just a low-end threat either. We're talking about a legitimate severe weather setup that starts Friday and continues through Sunday. The amount of moisture in place by Saturday is going to be more than sufficient for scattered severe storms from Texas all the way back into Mississippi. And this isn't the only storm we're tracking, because more moisture is going to keep coming out of the Pacific. That should form a pretty significant storm system along the west coast early next week. And then eventually that's going to move into the northern plains, Midwest, and possibly all the way into the Ohio Valley and Northeast. We're talking about the potential for snow, maybe even some freezing rain. And here's the wild part, we can't even rule out severe weather from this system because of how warm it's going to be so far north. Now granted, this is still about 7 days out, so things could definitely change. But I think we're going to continue to see multiple storm systems impacting the United States throughout next week. Let's break down what's happening right now. We already have a lot of snow and rain falling across the Rockies and West Coast. This region is about to become a snow factory over the next 7 to 10 days. We're talking about a snow bomb. Just an absolute dump of heavy snow as this intense atmospheric river sets up across the western part of the country. On the flip side, we still have some light to moderate snow across the northeast today, some light showers back in the southeast, but nothing too crazy across the board. By Thursday and Friday, that moisture along the west coast is going to organize into a storm system just west of Texas. We're expecting at least a low-end severe weather threat on Friday across far western Texas, mainly near the Midland area, where large hail and maybe a brief tornado or two will be possible. By late Friday and Saturday, this storm system is going to organize into a large area of rain. Saturday morning probably won't produce significant severe weather, but after lunchtime is when I think things are really going to ramp up. We should have good wind shear across the southern plains and deep south. One of the biggest concerns right now about whether this severe weather setup actually materializes is going to be the instability and timing of the storm system. I'm not entirely sure yet if we're going to have the right placement of the storm corresponding with our instability and moisture for this to be a major severe weather event. However, I do think isolated to scattered severe storms will be on the table throughout Saturday, mostly after lunch, across the region from Dallas-Fort Worth back toward Memphis, into Little Rock and Shreveport. We're talking damaging winds, hail, and maybe a few tornadoes, but it's very conditional right now. That could change as we get closer. This event has the possibility of at least a medium ceiling, meaning we could see a couple of strong tornadoes. It also has a very low floor where almost nothing could happen. It's a wide range of possibilities right now. Late Saturday into early Sunday, the storm system continues tracking east, with severe weather still on the table Sunday from Tennessee back into Georgia, maybe even into Florida, where damaging winds and a tornado or two will remain a concern. Now, beyond this time frame, things get a lot more uncertain, but also a lot more interesting. If you're along the East Coast, Sunday morning should be mostly rain across the southeast. However, a few models are showing there could be a snow threat with this storm system. This is something we talked about a bit yesterday, but there's a possibility that on the northern side of the storm, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, those areas could all see snow Sunday night into early Monday. It's too early to tell if this will happen exactly as modeled or if it'll happen at all. Some models aren't showing this at all. It's going to come down to the placement of this low-pressure system and how quickly it intensifies. But if it does take a turn more to the north and northeast, this will have a much better chance of producing snowfall across the northeast. So if you're anywhere back over there, definitely stay weather-aware for a possible winter storm. But the madness doesn't stop there. As we head into next week, we're expecting a pretty potent atmospheric river event along the west coast. This is going to lead to massive mountain snowfall Monday and Tuesday. We're talking feet of snow in the higher elevations. And I'll tell you, many of you living out there are saying the same thing. We desperately need this snowfall. The skiers are frustrated, sure, but beyond that, we're at record low snowfall amounts in many areas across the Rockies and Sierra Nevada. This is huge news because we're expecting multiple days of moderate to heavy snowfall, all across the Rockies and back toward the west coast. This is also going to unleash a couple more storm systems. Watching the northern plains and Midwest Tuesday into Wednesday for at least a pretty strong low-pressure system to move through. There'll be possibilities of snow, maybe some storms as well. It's too uncertain for exact details since this is still about a week away. Then by Thursday and Friday of next week, things continue to stay very uncertain. But the trend shows we'll likely keep seeing heavy snowfall across the western part of the country. These should start unleashing more storm systems into the United States, and therefore a much more active weather pattern should be upon us for the last couple weeks of February. Good news for those who want snow and active weather. Bad news for those enjoying the very quiet, peaceful weather most of the country's been experiencing for weeks. And this is pretty crazy. But over the next 7 to 10 days, we're expecting widespread 80 to 120 inches of snow across the Sierra Nevada and Cascades. If you're in the Rockies or anywhere up into Idaho, western Montana, those higher elevations feet of snowfall are going to be on the table. This is really great news, and I can't stress this enough. It's not just for the skiers. We also have a water shortage problem that'll develop if we don't continue to see more mountain snow over the next few weeks. Many areas are already at record low amounts of not just snowfall, but water for this time of year. So this is definitely positive news. Let's hope it continues over the coming weeks.